Give me one more night. Give me one more night. One more night. 'Cause I can't move forever. Give me just one more night.
From coast to coast, we've got two nights tonight. This is another episode of the 5Cast podcast. We're here to break down and examine intricately prepared top 5 lists for your enjoyment. From the Sentinel Tower in parts unknown, I'm your host Tyler, and at Second Floor Studios in Hollywood, California, that's Ben Pearson. Greeteth, Sir Ben.
And greeteth to you, sir. How's it going?
I don't think that's a proper use of the word greet in Old English, but let's say it is, because this bye-week on the 5Cast here, I'm sure you're very familiar with the Arthurian legend, my friend.
Not nearly as much as you. I think you are like a true student of this. Am I right?
No, absolutely not. I took one course once on classic literature, and I think we read one book about Arthur, and I wrote one paper about him, and ever since have claimed an expert of Arthurian legend, when in actuality I've been lying the whole time, or just beefing up my resume. I don't know what you want to call it. Although
Yeah.
I've never listed that on my resume. I did for this podcast, but we helped create the podcast, so it's neither here nor there. But yeah, I know a little bit about Arthurian legend. We both watched Excalibur for the Not Just New Movies podcast, so you're, in my mind, an expert. I think it's 2 hours makes you an expert.
Probably. I love the idea of you actually writing on your expert that you're an Arthurian, or on your resume that you're an Arthurian expert.
Yeah,
and
I
just,
mean,
seeing what that might do for you in business.
What are they gonna say? Like, what kind of questions are they gonna ask? Like, okay, who was King Arthur? I was like, he was king of Britain. Like,
True
1,000
or
years.
false? Uther Pendragon was.
Is Merlin a member of the Round Table? All these questions and more will be answered in this episode, Ben. We got our top 5 knights of the Round Table. There may be some contention. I was even contending with myself whether certain characters were part of the Round Table. And of course, we all know why there was a Round Table, Ben. He wanted to see all of his knights as equals.
Yes.
Even he, Arthur, King of Britain, wanted to see himself as an equal with the knights, even though obviously he was knighted or bequeathed Excalibur from the Lady of the Lake. I believe that sword goes all the way back to, Bible times. And he's on the constant search, as are the Knights of the Round Table, on constant search of the Holy Grail. But you know who ends up getting it in the end? The chasm from Indiana Jones and The Last Crusade.
Yes.
That chasm opens up and gobbles up that most sought after of religious relics, Christian relics, Jewish relics. I don't think the Jews really care about the Holy Grail, actually. The Christians, I think it's just a Christian thing. But of course, all are welcome here at the 5Cast, the top 5 temple that we list our favorite things at. Ben, do you have a list that knights your favorite knights?
Sure,
Highlights
yeah,
your favorite
absolutely.
knights of the Round Table?
Yeah.
Let's go ahead and get started, Ben, with your number 5.
My number 5 is Sir Lamorak.
Ooh,
Lamorak.
Ooh, nice pick.
Yeah. And he was the brother of Percival, who is one of the more famous knights.
Yes.
We may talk about him later on. I don't know. Maybe. We'll see. Sir Lamorak was one of the stronger...
He's Percival's brother, correct?
Yes.
Okay, I'm sorry. He's son of King Pellinor.
Yes, and he was one of the strongest knights of the I think it's historically 12 major knights of the Round Table. Is that right?
I think there were originally 12, much like the Apostles, and then sons of those knights, I think, were also brought in, fathered or grandfathered in.
Yeah, almost like a Fellowship of the Ring sort of scenario with like a Gloin and Gimli
wrong
sort of thing. No,
that's not how the Fellowship worked. Now, once you were dead, you were out.
No, but I think in the actual book, right? I think Gloin shows up at Rivendell during the Council of Elrond, and then Gimli ends up going. But I think Gloin is there.
I think the Fellowship were just the 9 that set out from Rivendell.
That's correct. I just meant more of a metaphorical handing.
Okay. All right. That's fair. That's fair. I'll allow it. Lowercase f in the Fellowship as opposed to uppercase F.
Yes,
what you're
yes,
saying.
exactly.
Okay.
Yeah. So, Sir Lamorak, one of the strongest knights of the Round Table, he was basically, I guess, hailed for his physical prowess.
Mm-hmm.
At KingArthur'sKnights.com, Tyler, it says
Yeah.
that he was
Great
he
site.
received a degree for jousting, which I really like that.
Did
I
he
don't
have
know
to
what-
joust like the ring which attached to was the degree? So
I
if he
hope
could
so.
if anyone could just joust into the ring to obtain the degree, you won.
Yeah, that's what I'm really
amazing.
hoping for. And yeah, he's well known for multiple times, Tyler, not just once, but
Mm-hmm.
multiple times. He is on record as fighting over 30 knights all by himself.
Oh, bully.
So
That
yeah,
is amazing.
that's
30
that's
nights
the-
at once.
30 nights at once. That's the reason that Lamorak comes in my number 5.
That's a Gastonian feat.
It is.
Yeah, of course, Lamorak making an appearance in the Lancelot Grail cycle. I don't know what that means. See, I'm not an expert at all. I guess it's the time when those stories were being told in the courts
Sure, yeah.
of Britain. Let's say that. My number 5 is actually one of the most famous knights, Ben. Sir Lancelot. Lancelot du Lac of the Lake. Or Lancelot. Lancelot. Hey, Lancelot. I'm Michael Caine, and you're not from no bloody lake. My voice gets very loud indeed. He's the son to King Ban and Elaine, and he's most famous for banging Guinevere on the side. Guinevere, of course, being Arthur Pendragon's wife and queen,
Yes.
and really does put a buzzkill on the whole Knights of the Round Table thing. They were the merry knights searching for that Grail, Ben, and then Lancelot's like, guys, there are way too many dudes. And so he sees Guinevere in the distance, made famous by, of course, again, mentioned three weeks, or 2 episodes in a row, Kevin Costner, Sean Connery as King Arthur, and banging Guinevere, who I believe is played by, I don't know.
Kevin Costner is not in that movie.
First Night?
Richard Gere is in First Night.
Oh, I thought for sure that was Kevin Costner. Well, someone cast incorrectly at that time.
I know what it is, Tyler. You were thinking of Robin Hood, Prince of Thieves, and because
that's right.
Sean Connery shows up in a cameo as King Richard.
As
at the
King
very
Richard?
end. Yes.
Sir Richard Shield. The
Yes.
inscription on Sir Richard Shield. Yeah, so that's why I appear on a movie podcast, because I know movies so well. And so yeah, Lancelot. I mean, Ben, it's a double-edged sword here. Is one of the greatest knights of all time in King Arthur's court. He's perhaps the second in command to King Arthur himself. Yet he fails miserably when it comes to adultery. He cannot wait to get into the tent of Guinevere, because obviously back in those times you had separate tents. The king and queen did not sleep in the same tent. The king was banging his concubines whilst the queen was in her own tent. And of course there was a double standard in the days of old, where women could not have bones of their own.
Conky bros.
Concubros of their own. And so it was very, very looked down upon at the time. But Guinevere did get her side piece, and Lancelot got his, and it created a massive civil war in the Knights of the Round Table. Now, did Lancelot try to achieve forgiveness? Did he try to achieve salvation? Yes, he did. And
Did he try to achieve climax? Yes, I believe he did.
Okay, all right, Ben. That's not that kind of show. But he did try, and I believe he succeeded in the eyes of God, and perhaps in the eyes of Arthur as well. And but we don't know, because Sir Sean Connery died at the end of that movie, and Lancelot had to fire that fire arrow into his chest from, I want to say, meters away, Ben. It was an amazing shot.
Sure, yeah.
But much like Moses in the Bible, he was forgiven, but he was not able to cross into the promised land. So Lancelot, although he was shown the Grail, he was not able to obtain it because of his great fault, not only betraying the friendship in Arthur, but also the adulterous actions with Guinevere.
Yes.
So unfair. Well, maybe not unfair, but unfortunate, I should say.
Yes.
Because who can determine fairness when God determines whether Lancelot sees the Grail or touches the Grail?
Indeed.
So Lancelot, my number 5. Ben, your number 4.
My number 4 is Sir Kay the Tall.
Ooh, Kay the Tall.
Yes, he was known as the foremost warrior at the court of King Arthur, and apparently Tyler had mystical powers, and I guess a poem was written about him in which he was hailed for, 9 nights and 9 days his breath lasted underwater. 9 nights and 9 days would he be without sleep. A wound from Kay's sword no physician might heal. When it pleased him, he would be as tall as the tallest tree in the forest. When the rain was heaviest, whatever he held in his hand would be dry for a handbreadth before and behind because of the greatness of his heat. And when his companions were coldest, he would be as fuel for them to light a fire. So
well, it sounds like Queen Guinevere chose the wrong dude.
Yeah, exactly.
Sounds like this guy is a man.
Yeah, he's got the bod, he's got the heat, he's got the glowing in his loins, and
he's Sir Rexion's son.
And he also has the warrior credentials needed to serve nobly on the battlefield.
Yeah,
so,
and Arthur was smart too because he made him his foster brother. He's like, "You're my brother now. Protect me.
Yeah,
make me whole." And man, Kay sounds like a badass. That is another Gastonian description of a knight of the Round Table. Now, is that poem Welsh? Perhaps is that translated from Welsh?
I don't know. He's one of the 3 enchanter knights of Britain. I'm not entirely certain where that
I wonder where the
poem
other two
originated.
are. I bet the other one is Scottish and the other one is English. I bet that's how they did it. I don't know. Who cares? I'm not an expert on Arthurian legend. For all you
Despite
listeners,
what my resume says.
intermediate expert on Arthurian legend is what it should read. But if any of those listeners are from the land of Britain, that's O-N, not A-I-N. Let's get it right, folks. Please write us in, 5castpodcast@gmail.com. Where are those other 2 enchanted knights that Ben spoke of?
Yeah,
But Kay sounds amazing. He should have his own movie.
he should.
Perhaps played by Kevin Costner. My number 4 is Percival. Percival is an interesting character. Yeah. He's one of the Knights of the Round Table, and I think I may have reviewed a book entitled Percival the Knight or something like that over there at the Sentinel. It was also when I was teetering on the edge of madness. And so I had been reading books, I suppose, to review for the website, and then realized no one was reading the reviews, and so I got enraged and sold the Sentinel to the New World Order. Very, very close to after that review of Percival.
A tumultuous time in the Solar Sentinel's history.
It was a full upheaval. But Percival is a member of the Round Table. He is one of the achievers of the Holy Grail. So he was able to not only see it when God was like, "Hey, here's the Holy Grail, now go find it." He actually went and found it, as opposed to Lancelot, who did not. He appeared in Chrétien's Percival, the Story of the Grail, the Lancelot Grail cycle, I believe. He's King Pelinor's son as well, I think. So as you mentioned, your number 5, I think, was King Pelinor's son. So they're brothers.
Yep.
Did who was your number 5 again? I'm sorry.
It was Lamorak.
Lamorak. Did he achieve the Grail?
I don't think so. No, I believe he died by Mordred the wizard or something. Or maybe Mordred wasn't a wizard. He was like a usurper who took over Arthur's throne.
He was like a dark knight, but then I think in later versions of the story, Morgard was merged into the character of Morgan Le Fay.
And that's what I was thinking of, yeah.
But you may be right on both counts.
Yeah.
But Percival's Welsh pronunciation, of course, is Peredur. There's also Percival and Parzival. So many centuries of these stories being told, and of course the names are changed to protect the innocent. But yeah, Percival achieved the Grail, and then that, I want to say Robert Mulder, maybe? I don't remember the author of that Percival book, but it was part 1 of a 4-part series. But as I mentioned, I descended into madness, so I did not read the other 3 parts to that quadrilogy, but perhaps sometime soon. I'm feeling a lot better since then, Ben.
Oh, good.
Thanks for asking.
So glad.
And so he's in my number 4. I thought perhaps only including Holy Grail achievers, because first is best. And but I threw out that draft and included just my favorite knights
Yes.
of the Round Table, but they are Knights of the Round Table. Ben,
Yes.
any thoughts on Percival?
Percival. That's a good one. I have not familiarized myself enough with the meticulous details of Arthurian legend enough to know this character beyond your description and
Right.
and maybe like an offhanded reference by another character or something in First Night or one of those kinds of
Right.
movies. But because I don't think he's played a large role in the pop culture canon of the King Arthur story. But
Yeah, I don't think he was even in the Mighty Python and the Holy Grail.
yeah, man, that's
A shame.
yeah. So
Ben,
my
number
number three is Lancelot, and
Okay, nice.
you've done a lot of the groundwork there for me.
yeah.
I'm just wondering about
Famed
the name,
adulterer.
Tyler. Do you think that the name Lancelot came from the idea that he
His genitals.
utilized his lance a lot? I mean, is it just a
Woo!
literal thing? I mean, I don't know.
Do your golf swing, Ben, just like Johnny Carson. We'll be right back, folks.
Oh man,
He was
yeah.
too busy using his lance a lot. Hey-o!
Good night, everybody.
Good night, everybody!
So
Great stuff.
Yeah, I basically, like I said, you covered a lot of this, and I agree. But I
What are your
endorse
thoughts on
everything.
Lancelot's forgiveness, his forsakenness, and then, of course, perhaps his redemption? Do you think it all pans out okay?
So that's the thing, is like the whole big deal about becoming a Knight of the Round Table was not necessarily about strength and physical prowess and stuff. It was really about taking like the oath of becoming a good man,
Yeah.
and agreeing to
Setting a
to
standard.
serve the king and the kingdom above yourself and stuff like that, and never to engage in battle for quarrels over women and stuff like that. It's like you really go to battle over stuff like defending your country, and that's about it, really, and like to defend your king. So it seems like Lancelot just straight up broke a lot of those the key components of becoming one of those knights. But that's the duality. It makes him interesting. He's like one of the best ones, but he has this fatal flaw. And then somehow, I don't know how the hell Arthur had it in him to forgive him and bring him back up and have him ascend back to become a trusted advisor again after that. But
Arthur was setting a standard, man. He was like, okay, I guess this shit happens. Might as well deal with it best I can.
Crazy stuff.
Yeah, because again, much like Moses, we all have our faults. We sometimes mess up, I guess. I don't know. Lancelot's an interesting character.
He is.
Of course, appearing perhaps first in Christian de Troyes' Eric and Enid from circa 1170 AD. Man, that is amazing. Of course, Wikipedia is providing a lot of these facts. So, again, if you write in 5castpodcast@gmail.com asking me questions of Arthurian legend, I am most assuredly going to point you towards Wikipedia because those primary sources are probably cited at some point in the article. So check those out. Cite properly, kids. My number 3, right?
Yes.
Is Owain the Bastard, I think?
Okay.
Is that his name? Yeah.
Yep.
Yahweh the Bastard?
Yeah, I think
first of all, love the tagline. I love that he admits to what he is. He's a bastard child. I believe Urien's son, King Urien, maybe? I don't know. Mm-hmm. First appearing in Owain Mob Urien, the historian Britannum, the Knight and the Lion? I don't know. But Yahweh the Bastard, it was called Yahweh the Adventurous, is the son of King Urien of Gore and is a Knight of the Round Table. He's often confused with his half-brother, Sir Eowyn, so I guess he didn't get the knight title. He just got Eowyn the Bastard, but he got a seat on the Round Table, which is interesting. While the older Eowyn is a child of Urien and Morgan Le Fay, King Urien sired Eowyn the Bastard on the wife of his seneschal. I don't know what that is, maybe a concubine.
Yeah, I think so.
He's encountered frequently in Arthurian romance as a hardy and sensible warrior. His death comes at the hands of his cousin Gawain, ironically during the quest of the Holy Grail. The two meet, disguised by their armor, and they decide to joust. Gawain is mortally wounded, and it is not until Gawain takes him to a hermitage for his last rites that he realized he had killed his own cousin. So, again, a tragic side story between Yawain and Gawain,
Yes.
which sound like dwarves from Tolkien's Legendarium. So
They do.
I'm sure Tolkien understood Arthurian legend very well and said, hey, all these guys sound the same when they're related, so why don't I do that with the dwarves?
Yep.
And perhaps Tolkien's dwarf naming was picked up by the later Britons, which was in like age 4, 5, and 6 of Tolkien's Legendarium. Who knows? Who knows, Ben? Tolkien was, in my mind, a time traveler. Still is.
Okay, I was wondering about that.
Yeah, even though he's physically not here with us anymore, I believe he's transcending universes as we speak, and perhaps rewriting history as we know it in his own image. Maybe, is he allowed to do that? I don't know if you're allowed to do that.
So I know you said you were doing better before, but I don't know.
Listen,
I don't know about
I'm
this.
well aware of the crazy things I say now, so I don't think that's madness. I think you have to. I think if you realize you're insane, you're not insane, or if you admit that you're insane, you're not insane. I think that's the rule.
Okay.
I'm not sure.
All right.
Ben, does this podcast offer health insurance coverage that includes like therapy?
I don't think it does, Tyler. I think each
the
episode
marketplace.
is our own therapy, working through our issues.
Ben, number 2.
My number 2 is Sir Galahad.
Ooh, interesting.
The,
He's my
the
number
natural-
1.
Okay, baller. Yeah, there we go. Natural son of Lancelot, and this guy.
Natural in the sense that it's all cut and dry, no bastardism.
I think so. Yes,
Okay,
I think
good.
his mother was Elaine. So, he was raised in a nunnery, I guess.
Mm-hmm.
But so this is the part that I found really interesting because my knowledge of the Arthurian legend essentially stops with Arthur and Lancelot. I didn't really know much about Galahad, but looking into him a little bit, it appears that there is another sword in the stone. And
Interesting.
and Galahad is the one who pulls the sword from the stone. So I was like, wait, did that not happen to Arthur? But it actually did. And then I guess a generation later, it also happened
Reboot.
where Galahad. That's a good point. So Galahad is the reboot of Arthur.
It's the
And
Britons
he's-
rebooting their own pop culture material.
Yeah, so fast. It's basically like the Amazing Spider-Man sort of thing. It's like they really didn't even wait very
Who
many
the fuck's
years.
Arthur? Let's go with this Galahad guy.
So he's known as the greatest knight ever. And
Well, hold on. I got a bone to pick with this right now. Didn't Arthur get the sword from the lake? He got it from Lady in the Lake. And then I think it's just the Disney movie that says that Arthur pulled the sword from the stone, right?
so maybe that's the discrepancy. I'm not sure. Yeah,
I think it might be.
So yeah, I remember there was like a Merlin miniseries a few years ago with Sam Neill, like the 2000s.
Dr.
And
Grant.
I think Arthur was given the sword. Like the sword was spat from the Lady in the Lake, like out of the water, and came to him. Maybe, I don't know. It's been a long time since I've seen that. But so maybe the sword and the stone is just a Galahad thing that's been like appropriated by Disney and stuff to tie into the Arthur story. I don't know.
Yeah, Disney's like, it's all public domain, so we can do whatever we want with it.
Yeah, if any of you listeners actually know the real story behind this stuff, or the legendary story behind this stuff, shoot us an email and let us know. I'm really interested to know sort of how this all factors in. So
I hope an Arthurian expert from like Oxford writes us in. So,
yeah, that'd be great.
Sir Professor, please, 5castpodcast@gmail.com.
And listen, like even if you aren't one, you can just write in and say that you are, because we're not going to look it up. So we'll see what happens.
Now, Wikipedia points out that Galahad was an illegitimate son of Lancelot and Elaine of
Really?
Corbinic. So I don't know. We have to cross-reference our sources.
Yeah, there's some KingArthursKnights.com and Wikipedia are at odds here, so I'm not sure
For
about
years,
that.
this feud has been brewing, Ben.
So Galahad is the Grail Knight, Tyler. He is the only knight on Earth considered by God worthy of the Holy Grail, and he drank from it, and he actually was surrounded by light and ascended to heaven.
Wow, nice finale, buddy.
Yeah, man, I figured you got.
He's like celebrating the whole way up. He's just like, yeah. Oh, he's like giving the suck it motion. He's just like, boom.
Yeah, so the rest of the guys that won't be allowed to drink from it. He's like, F you guys.
Now this brings up an interesting, also an interesting theme as well, Ben. Galahad, son of Lancelot. Lancelot, he faulted. He messed up. he saw the Grail but was not able to access it. Galahad, making up for the sins of the father, a la Luke Skywalker, was so good that it's so pure that he was able not only to touch the Grail, drink from the Grail, probably make a wish or two, and then ascend into heaven, amazingly enough. So he, like, Lancelot's like looking on, he's like, we all want our children to be better than us, Ben. Ben, you have children, I'm sure. I have children, I'm sure. I don't know. Let's say this podcast is being listened to 1,000 years in the future. I'm sure we've had children at that point.
Sure.
Medical technology is accelerating at a great rate. We're probably 500 years old. We've had children. We all want our children to do better than what we did. So the Galahad story kind of proves that. Lancelot messed up. He tried to redeem himself, had a son. The son totally redeems the family. Much like the Skywalker saga.
Yeah, absolutely.
Unless you talk to J.J. Abrams when he says none of that really exists anymore.
All right. So
has he even seen Return of the Jedi?
We're gonna go off on that tangent again. So yeah, getting back to Galahad, who I know is
I love this guy.
Yeah, he was known as the perfect knight. He was perfect in courage, gentleness, courtesy, and chivalry. And
what a list!
Yeah, man, he freaking rocked it. So, who's your number one? Or your number two? Your number two?
Well, I mean, of course, Galahad shows up in the Lancelot Grail cycle, early 1200s, and the Pulsed Vulgate cycle, which I have no idea what that is. And of course, Thomas Mallory's La Mort d'Arthur, the Death of Arthur. My number two. I think. The Green Knight, Ben. The Green Knight. Kind of thought it was cool that the Green Knight was kind of his name. He was known as the Green Knight. And after reading a little bit about him, it's kind of cool to think that he might have been the Swamp Thing of the Middle Ages. He was a knight enchanted by Morgan Le Fay in order to test Gawain. He appears, of course, in The Green Knight, King Arthur, and King Cornwall. And I believe J.R.R. Tolkien did a Sir Gawain and the Green Knight translation, perhaps, from the 1300s? I don't know.
Jeez.
Anyway, the Green Knight, also his name is eventually revealed to be Bersilac de Haut Desert. Cool name. Also known as Bread Beddle. That's kind of cool.
I could have sworn it would be like Tome de Dragonzord. Like the...
Tome Dragons.
Get it, Tyler? The Green Ranger? The Green
Ranger. Oh, I got it. Now, Ben, do you think the Green Knight is the Green Knight, like, do you think...
Reincarnated?
Like Zordon's Green Ranger was the Green Knight back
100%.
when... All right, confirmed.
Yes.
Bersilac is transformed into the Green Knight by Morgan Le Fay, a traditional adversary of King Arthur. In order to test his court, the Green Knight is transformed by a different woman for the same purpose in the Green Knight. In both stories, he sends his wife to seduce Gawain as a further test. What was the part about how he could have been green for some reason? The earliest appearance of the Green Knight in the late 14th century survives in only one manuscript, along with other poems by the same author. Not Arthur, author. This poet was a contemporary of Geoffrey Chaucer, a writer of Canterbury Tales, although the two wrote in different parts of England. So I guess they never met. They weren't good friends and confidants, I suppose. The later poem, The Green Knight, is a late medieval rhyming romance that likely predates its only surviving copy. Anyway, from what I was trying to figure out, I don't know where I saw it now. It begged the question that the Green Knight's skin was actually green.
Oh,
and
weird.
that his armor was also green, and that I think his head was chopped off at some point. So it made me think that perhaps he was called the Green Knight because he was enchanted to look like perhaps a tree or a plant of some kind, or perhaps a swamp thing, if you want to take it that far. Or maybe even an ent.
Ooh.
Just
a flesh wound.
Worth saying slowly. Can I read a little bit from what the Green Knight addresses in Sir Gawain and the Green Knight?
Do it.
No, I seek no battle, I assure you truly. Those about me in this hall are but beardless children. If I were locked in my armor on a great horse, no one here could match me with their feeble powers. Therefore, I ask of the court a Christmas game. And a Christmas game maybe the name of this episode, or maybe the name of our December episode. Who knows? But the Green Knight's Christmas game is he asking to play like a game of chess, or he's perhaps asking for like a piece of chicken? I don't know, because game could also be the word for what they've hunted, like meat. I don't know. Ben, any thoughts on the Green Knight?
No, I really just think he's Tommy, the Green Ranger.
Okay. Tommy, the Dragon Sword. Ben, you're number one.
My number one, I got to go with my boy King Arthur on this one.
Oh,
Tyler.
nice.
He is,
the official knight of the round, the starter of the round table.
The OG knight of the round table.
Perhaps the carpenter of the round table. I don't know if he made it himself.
Yeah, I think I read somewhere that that he was given the round table as a dowry when he married Guinevere.
All right.
So, I don't know if that's
Sweet.
true.
I don't have to pay for anything.
Basically. But yeah, man, he grew up, as a street peasant, I guess, and then
Arthur Pendragon, son of Uther.
Uther, and then I guess sort of quasi raised by Merlin. Any sort of interaction with a wizard is always kind of a plus for me.
Yep.
And then I guess he found, Wikipedia says two things. It says that he possessed a sword known as Excalibur, given to him by the Lady in the Lake. But but the entry also says that one of the most famous tales of King Arthur is one where he pulls the sword out of a stone. So I guess it depends on material. Yeah, it depends on who you are hearing the story from.
Now, I think now let's just preface that with these are stories. This isn't like historically accurate accounts of anything.
In the first minute of this episode.
Yeah,
but yes.
So I think maybe a guy named Arthur existed at some point and maybe won a great battle, but as far as like the magic of Merlin and
I don't think he was actually stories. Historically the king of Britain. So I don't think that's ever actually been
I do believe
confirmed.
I do believe in the godly magic that exists in these stories, but perhaps not in the order that they're accounted. So someday I wish to find a sword and a stone and pull it and be the ruler of the universe.
Yeah, of course. And
Greatest
Mordred
podcast.
was his son who, well, like I said before, sort of usurped the throne when he was out on the quest for the Holy Grail. And Arthur ended up coming back to defend his kingdom, Camelot, and ended up killing his own son. But I think they both struck each other at the same time or something. Yeah. So, but Mordred died first, so Arthur won, and then Arthur died pretty quickly after.
And he's just laying there. He's like, got it.
Yeah. And then I think he commanded one of the other the Grail Knights to return Excalibur into the lake, from whence it came. So
ending his great tale.
Yeah, and one of the legends, I guess, is that he never actually died, but will return when the British citizens need him. Ooh. So that's kind of an interesting thing.
He really should have showed up for that Brexit.
Yeah,
hey guys, hold on.
I wonder if there were any people, any British citizens who were like, it's cool, Arthur's gonna come back and save us. Yeah. He's got to be back for this.
If it was really that big a deal, Arthur would have come back. So I like the idea though that the table came from Guinevere's side, and Guinevere's like, oh, this is gonna make a nice little dinner table, and we'll have breakfast here. And Arthur's like, no way, woman, this is where me and my bros are gonna hang. Yeah. Come on, dudes. And all these sweaty guys in armor just show up and just stink up the whole castle. And Guinevere's like, and heads over to her tent, and Lancelot's tiptoeing away.
Oh yeah.
Arthur Pendragon, great. Just a great tale, great history, great. I consider us experts at this point.
Sure,
I think that's one of the qualifications is you have to podcast about something to become an expert.
Who's your number one, Tyler?
That was Galahad, remember?
Oh, that's right. That's right.
Galahad, but I do have an honorable mention. Bors the Younger, not Bors the Elder. Bors the Younger, because Bors the Younger actually got a seat on the round table. Bors the Elder did not, so suck it, older guy. Also, I feel like I got a soft spot for Badge Magus, who was
Badge Magus,
one of the most sweetest names ever of anybody. Yeah. And then the Black Knight, although that wasn't a member of the round table, although he was King Arthur's grandson through Tom a Lincoln, who I believe was a Knight of the Round Table, and who also met my honorable mention qualifications, because for all the names that are in the Arthurian legend, like Tom a Lincoln just kind of sticks out like a sore thumb.
Yeah, for sure.
But he's a illegitimate son of King Arthur through Angelica. So, I mean, let's point the sword elsewhere, Arthur. When Guinevere's having some side piece action, Arthur's having all these illegitimate sons. So, who knows what goes on these days, or those days, or these days?
Crazy.
Yeah. But if you have your own favorite Knights of the Round Table, or perhaps your own favorite knights, or perhaps your own version of the Arthur legend, you can, of course, send those to our email, 5castpodcast@gmail.com, especially if you're an Oxford professor. Ben, a lot of things in the pipeline. What do you got going on in cyberspace?
You can find me on Twitter, twitter.com/Ben Pears. You can hit me up on Instagram there, same name if you want to.
IG.
And then, listen to the Not Just New Movies podcast, njnmpodcast.blogspot.com. And I think that's going to do it, Tyler.
Great stuff. And, of course, our episode of Excalibur, episode 4, I believe, of the Not Just New Movies podcast, where, if my memory treats me well, I was running late for that recording, and I showed up at the very end and gave a quick synopsis and what I liked and disliked about Excalibur, which I think is a fantastic film. I have not rewatched it since. I think that was 6 years ago.
Oh,
but
yeah.
I am excited.
That was a long time ago.
I am excited to figure that out, and I feel like every Arthur movie needs to look just like that.
Mm-hmm.
However, strangely enough, Monty Python and the Holy Grail kind of set the visual tone for an Arthur story well before Excalibur.
Yes.
So, I think we talked a little bit about that on that episode. So check that out, episode 4 of the Not Just New Movies podcast.
Do it.
Take 5. We'll see you next time. Bye-bye, Ben.
Take 5.